A very good morning, students. In this video, since we are on the face, I am going to tell you about the facial artery in face, okay? Because the face is supplied by many arteries. It is supplied by supratrochlear, supraorbital. This is the supratrochlear and supraorbital branches of the ophthalmic artery. Okay, the trochlear and orbital branches of the ophthalmic. This is the dorsal nasal branch. Okay, dorsal nasal branch. Okay, which is the branch again from the ophthalmic. Okay, so these are the branches plus this is also supplied by a branch from the maxillary artery, and that is the infraorbital branch, okay, which comes out through infraorbital foramina. This is also supplied by the mantle artery, okay. Then this is also supplied by the transverse facial artery, which is the branch of the superficial temporal artery. So there are many branches we supply, but the major important blood supply comes from the facial artery. Okay, so in this we will learn about the facial artery in the face, and we will learn the facial artery under the various heads. Origin means beginning of the facial artery, then course, then branches, and then various anastomosis which a facial artery makes on one side, on the either side, that is on the right side and left. If we see the origin of the facial artery arises from the external carotid artery, and the external carotid artery lies in the carotid triangle. This branch is given at the level of the greater carnua of the hide bone, okay, and then this artery runs upwards and forward in the neck, and then it comes deep to the mandible in the submandibular region. So then the facial artery lies in the submandibular region in close approximation of that of the submandibular gland. Then this artery comes to the lower border of the mandible, okay, or at the base of the mandible, where it pierces the deep fascia, okay, or the general investing layer of the deep cervical fascia, and then it comes in superficial fascia, okay, and lies onto the body of the mandible just at the anterior border of the masseter muscle, okay. So this is the anterior border of this masseter muscle where this artery is lying, okay. But this goes into the neck or in the submandibular region, gives many branches like the palatine artery, the tonsillar artery, the arteries to the submandibular gland and submental. But all these are the branches given by this facial artery when it lies in the neck, okay. So it is not the part of our video. We will deal the facial artery only in the face, okay, only in the face. Now this artery, as it lies at the lower border of the face, okay, from where we will trace its course. Here if you will trace this facial artery in the superficial fascia, it will run, okay, a large course, and this course is upwards and forwards, and this is going very close to the angle of the mouth, about 1.5 centimeter, very close to that of the lateral angle of the mouth here. And then this tortuous artery runs by the side of the ala of the nose, while the dorsum of the nose very close to, and then it terminates or ends, okay, at the medial angle of the eye. That means where the upper and the lower eyelids they meet, here it will end, and here it is called as angular artery. So its termination is called as angular artery, okay, where it will divide into the branches of the angular artery. Now, so this is the course of the facial artery in face, okay. Now this facial artery is a tortuous artery. It is not straight like the vein which we have learned in our previous video, and it comes very close to the angle of the mouth. So the pulsation of the artery in its course can be felt at two different places. One at the when it comes into the superficial fascia in the face at the angle of the mesenteric muscle, anteroinferior angle, and where it is lying just in above the border of the mandible, that is at the base of the mandible. You press this artery, okay, against the hard object of the mandible, and then the pulsation can be felt. Similarly, the pulsation can also be felt at the angle of the mouth by putting one finger inside the oral cavity and pressing it with that of the thumbs, where pulsation can also be felt. Now this is quite a tortuous artery, okay, wavy artery, and this is said to be because of this artery is subjected to the various type of the stretching forces, okay, because when we are talking, our mandible is moving up and down, so our lips are moving, the muscles of through which superficial and deep facial muscle through which it has to make its course in the superficial fascia, it is the artery is here then subjected to the stretching, and to overcome this stretching force, the artery is tortuous, okay, artery is tortuous. So this is the course of the artery. When we come to the branches of this artery, we will learn the branches taking origin from its anterior side, and then we will learn from its posterior side. If you see these branches, then this is the inferior labial, that is a branch going to the lower lip, inferior labial branch, and then a branch is going into the superior labial branch going into the superior lip, so it is superior labial branch. So there is a superior labial and there is an inferior labial branch, and then a branch is going by the side of the nose, okay, that is called as the lateral nasal branch. It is the lateral nasal branch which goes and supply to the ala of the nose, side of the nose, the dorsum of the nose, and the part of the cheek, okay. And ultimately this artery terminates as angular artery, okay, by dividing into the 2 or 3 branches just at the medial angle of the eye, okay. So these are the branches which are well developed branches, and they are from the anterior margin of the artery which are coming and running anteriorly. But then there are many branches which are given posteriorly also. These are the branches which are given, unnamed multiple branches are given which form the anastomosis here, and these branches, they are supplying to mostly to the muscles of the face, okay, facial expression. No name is given to these branches which are taking origin from posterior aspect. Now let's come to see the anastomosis. This artery, facial artery, makes many anastomosis with the many arteries, and thus the blood supply to the face is very rich. The first anastomosis which we can see here is that of the dorsal nasal branch, okay, which is a branch from that of dorsal nasal branch, which is a branch from the ophthalmic artery. So it also makes the anastomosis with the supraorbital and supratrochlear, the orbital and supratrochlear branches, supratrochlear. So supraorbital and all three, supraorbital, supratrochlear and the dorsal nasal branch, they are the branches from the ophthalmic artery. An ophthalmic artery itself is a branch from that of the internal carotid artery. So this anastomosis is between the branches of angular artery, dorsal nasal and supraorbital and supratrochlear branch. Thus, this anastomosis is important because this is a anastomosis between the branch of the external carotid artery and the branches of the internal carotid artery. So the two arteries, they form an anastomosis here. Okay? Then the second anastomosis is with that of the infraorbital branches, okay, which comes out through the infraorbital foramina, and this is with the posterior branches which are given here, the posterior branches which are given, they will form an anastomosis here. Okay, just I will form a circle here. This is the anastomosis with that of the maxillary branch. Okay, so this is with the infraorbital branches. Then there is an anastomosis between the transverse facial artery. This is the transverse facial artery, and this is a branch from superficial temporal, which itself is a branch of the internal carotid artery. And this transverse facial artery will have the anastomosis with the posterior branches which are taking origin from that of the facial artery. And another anastomosis is here with that of the mantle artery. So this is an anastomosis with the mantle artery, which is a branch from the inferior alveolar branch. Okay, so there are so many arteries which are forming an anastomosis on the face, but most important is the anastomosis between the external and the internal carotid artery. Okay, now then there is an anastomosis with the opposite branches. Okay, opposite anastomosis between superior labial, inferior labial branches mostly, which are going into the upper lip and lower lip from one side. They will form an anastomosis with the same branches, superior and inferior labial branches of the opposite side, and this is the reason why the nose also, where dorsal nasal will form an anastomosis from opposite side. It is very rich in blood supply. So any cut in the lip, okay, upper lip or lower lip, will bleed profusely because of this anastomosis. That's in nutshell we can say that the facial artery is the main blood supply for the face, and it forms many anastomoses. Thus the face is very rich in that of the blood supply. So any cut in the face bleeds profusely but heals also very quickly. Thank you very much for watching this video on facial artery in the face.